I'm good.
You look lovely, darling. You look lovely. You're
Don't tell your wife, man. Stop.
Crystal clear.
Stop.
And I'm
Stop.
trying to use, maybe I could switch it over here. I got this, I got my, it looks like I'm carrying something invisible. I got the iPhone connected. Let me see how that is. Oh, that looks messy as fuck. Never mind. All right. So Joe,
Having so much to talk about.
There was an election last night.
You know what was so refreshing is that, after the show, when everything started tanking in crypto, I was just like, I don't feel like dealing with this today. So I just shut everything off and I went on and watched some movies. Nice. And I watched Any Given Sunday again. I hadn't seen that in years.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Love that movie. Yeah. And, and then watched a few more movies. Forgot all about the election completely. Every time I looked at crypto, everything was down 25%. So I was like, man, what's the point of looking? Too late to sell, too late to do anything at that point. And we're the deep V that we've been calling. So I'm feeling refreshed. And then I wake up and I see, oh, okay, there's no riots in the street. Crypto's still around down 20% or whatever, but it is what it is. And I was relaxed. So I'm like very optimistic. And then, like you said earlier in our chat, Gen Z was out and youth was out voting in highest numbers ever. And, that's what I want to see. I want to see participation. And so I was so proud of that. I was so glad to see that. So very cool. How do you feel, man?
I feel good. As a lifelong Democrat, I want to fire every consultant because I think they could have done more. And I think they could have kept control of the House and the Senate, but they're all incompetent idiots. What I want is James Carville back. You remember James Carville?
Yeah, I remember him when he said, Paula Deen is what you get when you put a dollar bill on a fish hook and troll it through a trailer park. She was the one who was accused and settled with Clinton on that one of those various sexual harassment type deals. Carville and Mary Madeline were fun together.
He is a fucking genius, and he still is, even at his old age. And I will tell you, I have a friend that. Well,
go ahead.
My friend is the spouse of a perennial candidate here in Miami who has been in the state Senate for the last 2 terms and has run for every office almost here in the state, and loses frequently. And in a previous cycle, when she ran for Congress, she asked me to come on the phone because I have a marketing background. I also ran political campaigns for 8 years. So she asked me to get on a phone call with she was a chosen race, right, by the Democratic Party. And they asked me to get on a phone call with and I promise folks, we'll get off the politics here quickly, with all of the Democratic consultants that have been appointed to her team. And I got off the call with her and I said, if you listen to what these people say to you, you are going to lose badly. They have no social media strategy, no online ad strategy, no messaging strategy, no framing strategy. You're going to lose badly. She listened to them for the whole campaign and got her ass kicked. So anyway, she got her ass kicked last night because Miami has gone full on fear of socialism and crime. So that was fun. Anyway, but as it relates to crypto, the thing I want to say about what we haven't figured out in crypto yet is that we have no power, and waiting for the general election to try to assert power as a political entity, as a lobbying group, as whatever, you might as well just stack up the cash and burn it or send it all to a burn wallet, because it is absolutely stupid to wait till the general election to try to show you have power. The opportunity we had to show power was in the primaries. I've been screaming about it for 2 fucking years, that if we want to show power, we needed to take out anti-crypto people in primaries. Nobody wants to get off their ass because they're all a bunch of fucking libertarians, and nobody did. So we had zero impact in this election. Nothing. Nobody in Congress gives a shit about crypto money in politics this cycle, right? I mean, there'll be a few that got some money and they're glad they won, blah, blah, blah. They'll thank them and then they'll forget about them. If you want to have power, you have to show fear. You have to put fear into the hearts of people in Congress. You have to make them think you have enough money and enough messaging and super PACs to make them lose or make them win. And we failed at that. Absolutely failed. This was the opportunity. It'll be a presidential election next cycle. We won't have that opportunity. We'll have the opportunity in the primaries again, but it won't be the number one thing this time around. Midterms was our shot and we fucked it up. We just fucked it up. So, you know, we'll have to try again in 2 years and we're going to have to try at a state level, but this libertarian, I don't vote, I don't engage in this dirty, nasty politics, everybody's the same bullshit is going to mean that we will have no representation in Congress that can make any difference. So that's what we got. That's what we got because people think they're better than politics that actually runs the world. So anyway, that's my rant for this morning about politics and DeFi. Any comments,
I did
Joe?
see something. I mean, what's to say on that? I don't really have a big response about any of it. But the point is that this is my response. I read just recently earlier today that 16.9 billion was spent on this election. So that includes all the consultants and everybody else. So when you talk about crypto lobbying, I think you got to think if there's 16.9 being spent on a midterm, you got to be bringing like 5B to the table to get
but you
what
don't
you want.
if you do it in the primaries. That's my point. Primaries are concentrated. Primaries are where almost all congressional elections are decided because most districts are
everything's
safe.
gerrymandered. Yeah. I agree.
So most districts are safe. So if you want to impact, if you want to show your power, you start a super PAC that picks 5 elections. Everybody funnels their money into that super PAC and you run negative campaigns against all of your enemies. And then you pick 5 other candidates that you want to boost and you run positive campaigns for them. The campaigns aren't about crypto. You don't make the campaigns about crypto, about DeFi, about nothing. You make them about the issues that are important in that election. And you go and you make clear to everybody running in those elections, we're here to destroy you or we're here to help you win.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the NRA model.
Make a difference. Exactly.
That's the APAC model. You know, it's like both of those groups would routinely, as you know, I mean, would pick 1 or 2 candidates just who made something that did something they didn't like, and they would absolutely destroy that person.
Yeah, exactly.
By putting all the money on the other side. So you basically, put down a thing, it's like the don't mess with me thing.
Yep.
And, I think you're right. But I think if you act that way, it also brings in other counteractions that you might not anticipate. So, for instance, if, say, crypto bowed up with 5 billion, you can expect that the forces that are against crypto or trying to influence crypto in maybe negative ways are going to show up with the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And they got a lot more.
Well, they have a lot more, but they also have other concerns, right?
That are less important. I mean, this is less important to them. Yes, I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
But if we are ever going to have an impact in the United States politics, and I can't say how it works in other countries, but I would assume giving money to these candidates in the UK that are supporting us would be a good fucking thing for UK citizens. Same in other countries. But anyway, Sean says, discussing American politics is helping with my lack of sleep for the last 48 hours. All right, we're done, Sean.
Go, move on. CPI, man.
Now, Sean and I have had a Twitter discussion going on.
Oh, let's hear that.
Well, it's not fair to have the discussion without Sean on the show, so we should get him on in the next day or two if he wants to. Sean, if you want to, ping me on Telegram, please. I'd love to.
You talking about BTC DeFi or
no? Whatever. Talking about SBF FTX. Sean is absolutely convinced that CZ caused this, and CZ is the devil. He also thinks Sam is the devil, well,
they're just shitcoiners, right?
Yeah, and no, not based on that.
I'm not poking him. Don't.
Yeah, no, he's saying that the actions that CZ took caused this. My point of view is that this was going to happen anyway, and CZ actually probably, if he goes through with the acquisition, could have probably saved a lot of investors in FTX, not the investors in the FTX, people who have money in FTX as an exchange, from having to wait for bankruptcy settlements to get their money back. There are rumors today that the deal's not going to go because the books are even worse than what's been exposed, but we'll see. My point of view is CZ did a brilliant business move, saw an opportunity, took it. This is a cutthroat business, and all of crypto would be mocking him if he hadn't taken the action. We'll leave it at that. But here's some of the shit that's going on with this thing. CZ did send an email to all of the employees at Binance and said, basically, keep your mouth shut. We're doing due diligence. If you don't know about the deal, you're not going to know about the deal. We're going to be transparent. We're going to be more transparent. And, you know, we're going to try to do the right thing. That's kind of his point to his employees. Sean said he will never buy. The contagion here will be unreal. Yeah, I don't know if the contagion, though, would impact him if he structures the deal right. The contagion impacts everybody else, but I think the real contagion problem is going to be on the Alameda side. But there are a lot of big ass investors in where was that list? I had a list up of investors, including the third largest pension fund in Canada, put a shit ton into FTX. Oh, and Tom Brady, evidently 600, most of his $650 million fortune is in FTX.
What?
Yeah. I just saw a post.
Oh man, you know who's really bumming today? Giselle. That divorce settlement, man. You just lost 300 million, girl.
Exactly. Anyway, so there was, though, I don't know if this is real or not, but I've seen it by multiple posts. Sam's letter to his investors who, you know,
no, I haven't seen this yet.
If this deal goes through, he is basically fucking all his investors because he at the expense of the people who had money in the exchange. So he said, I'm sorry, I've been hard to contact the last few days. I wish I could have been more communicative during this process, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to be. Things were coming together dynamically. We've entered into a non-binding agreement with Binance to buy FTX. What does this mean exactly? That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have a perfect answer for you because the details are still being hashed out. We'll keep you updated as we learn more over the next days and weeks. Our first priority is to protect customers and the industry. That's been guiding what we do. We're optimistic that we'll accomplish all of those, which means that we'll soon be focusing on our second priority, our shareholders. I don't know that that's exactly how an incorporated entity should.
Yeah, I have a feeling the courts might have a different. Is that you talking or is that the letter?
The letter says on our second priority, our shareholders. Then that was my comment.
Again, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Again, I wish I had more details for you guys right now. I don't yet. I'll get them as they are hashed out. But protecting our shareholders is our highest priority outside of the non-negotiable ones. I am likely to be quite swamped the next few days. So unfortunately, I probably won't have much time for a bit. But Ramnick and others will be around and slightly less jam-packed. Anyway, I'll write more of a retrospective later when I have time to. I'm sorry I didn't do better. I'm going to do what I can to protect customer assets and your investments. So if that's a true letter and if that's his current attitude, he's trying to do the right thing by people that have money in the exchange by doing this deal with CZ. Sean says there was never going to be a deal, in my opinion, never. One of the things I said in the discussion with Sean today on Twitter is maybe Sam just asked CZ to do him a favor and say to buy him some time, right? So they announce a deal, they handshake on a $1 buy, and then we're going to do due diligence, yada, yada, yada. And then that gives time for Sam to either try to get money in or to potentially arrange a sale to
another party
or somebody else. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, then there's a haircut for retail traders. Who knows? But that's, I guess, another possibility. But who knows? Binance has CZ came out saying they're going to do proof of reserves, full transparency through the use of Merkle trees, the data structure used to encode blockchain data more efficiently, securely. Basically, he's going to say that they're going to have a provable, transparent proof of reserves. They also boosted the SAFU fund by up to $1 billion. So that's basically their insurance fund that they pay into out of gas fees or transaction fees. and they've boosted that to $1 billion, which is pretty impressive. All in all, Joe, the whole narrative here that people are in a major panic because of the potential for contagion of this thing, which is why the prices are dumping to where they are, is the psychology of people in this space, or I guess in general humans, is incredibly fascinating to me, because this whole idea that, you know, because Sam wasn't what Sam said he was, and because FTX wasn't what it said he was, and Alameda's a fucking mess, that somehow this means everything should crash in anticipation of what the contagion is from these guys, to me is just amazing. Like, people just dumping everything they have because the narrative is this. It's just fascinating to me, the whole psychology of it. It's just incredible.
I think there's a couple things going on. One, I think most people, you know, have been in a position where, you know, shit just does go to zero. And I think people are like, you know, trigger happy at this point to, oh my, you know, Terra, go back, you know, 2017, 2018, you know, pandemic, whatever. So many different times when people have held, and I think that everybody's expecting this leg down. And so I think when you get this type of high profile incident, and on top of that, all that chatter about the Fed and what BTC they hold and what they're doing with it, I think all these institutional guys are like, well, shit, we're up, what, since the summer? Like, what, still 30, 40%, I think, right? At 21. But they're up something. And they're thinking, fuck, this is going to go down. Let's sell. And we'll rebuy back at 12. So you look down there, I see massive buy walls down there on ETH in particular and BTC. So I think people just all in mass use it as an excuse psychologically, like you said, to exit and look to reload. But, you know, when that happens all for everybody, it doesn't mean the price gets down there. You don't know who else is waiting in the wing to buy it. You know, where is it at right now? 17 something. You don't know who else is in the wings to, you know, at 16.5 on stuff you can't see. You know, this is just limit orders on an exchange. You know, that's a very, I don't want to say it's a small part, but, you know, all the other backroom stuff going on and you know, all the perp stuff, you just can't see it. So, as well. So to me, I think that it's interesting because it is a little bit of a devil's dilemma kind of thing, you know, because if you stay in here, I mean, does anybody really feel like it's going to go meteorically shooting up right now? I mean, I don't. Does anybody think it's going to go meteorically down? Not maybe at this point. I don't think it. I think it just did it. But if something else happens, yeah. Or if it snowballs, that psychological sentiment you mentioned, yeah, it's possible. But I don't think FTX is going to spill over into some giant friggin' mess. And, you know, the way the deal's being done on the term sheet, I see people talking about it like it's closed, and it's not closed. And, you know, nothing's binding. They probably came to a range number where CZ said, well, you know, if your assets are this and this and this, you know, we could probably come to a deal somewhere in this range. Right. And, you know, Sam's like, that's cool. Let's work to it. So now they're all in there digging and trying to figure out how to make that happen. And then, you know, a new price shows up probably, but not up, a new price, you know, lower to close. So if it does unravel and that doesn't close, I think that other groups, you know, in there, like the Blackstone, BlackRocks, Goldmans, those kind of guys, British banks, anybody who wants to make a splash in crypto London, a financial institution there should be looking at this. Gibraltar banks, Singapore. I think there's plenty of opportunities for them. So I'm not as negative. I'm just glad that Sam, you know, and those guys, even if they, you know, made a couple of mistakes, I'm glad they friggin' didn't just ride it into the friggin' abyss like Do Kwon did.
Right.
You know, I'm glad that he looked into the abyss and said, wait, this is going to get much, much worse if I don't just get this ship stabilized now. Because then the next things you're saying to investors is when you start committing investment fraud, because you're seeing the friggin' train wreck coming. And no matter how you parse it to investors, there's going to be some lawyer who can get nuance out of that messaging that goes to a, you know, fraudulent financial statement. So he did the right thing, no matter what he did before that. I don't know any of these guys, and but I don't think it's as bad as everybody says. And I'm glad the deal was done, and I hope it closes. But if it doesn't, I have a feeling there's going to be another player showing up.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And Niblet says people dump because they think everyone else would dump. Yeah, I get it. It's the common knowledge problem. XBT Sean says people are front running the sale of Alameda FTX assets. Yeah,
There you
smart
go.
move. And then he pointed out a great blog post by Arthur Hayes on this. I scanned through the top of it while we were talking. Here's the summary at the bottom. Basically, he's calling this our Lehman Brothers, right? And he makes the point that the crisis started in 2008, but the full reach of it wasn't hit until March of 2009. And so his point is that he thinks that we will have a lot more repercussions from this over time because of the amount of people that are connected and believed in FTX, Sam, and Alameda. So who knows how deep it will go? But his point is that he expects that that this will get uglier before it gets good. And he said that he's supremely bullish on the prospects of crypto in 2023. He says, I know the date keeps slipping, but I reserve the right to change my mind in the face of market conditions. I believe we are about to trade to new lows as everyone wonders which crypto household name will go bankrupt next for lending money to FTX/Alameda. And that's a good point, right? I mean, the controversy started because of the amount of debt that Alameda had based on FTT, using it as collateral, right? And so, which is printed out of thin air. So the point is that those people aren't going to be able to collect their money. And so then how much contagion is there between all of those firms? And I think that's a valid point. And we don't know yet, but it could get very ugly. So
yeah, well, anytime you pull a big chunk of capital out of a composed levered derivative kind of structure, put a goose egg in there instead of $100 million, it tends to affect a lot of people. But my thing is, when I found out that like Alameda was holding like 5 or 8 billion in like FTT on their balance sheet or something, and then you look at the market cap, and it's like, I think of FTX's total market cap is like 3.5 billion then, and you're kind of like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
How does one, and then you're still holding a couple billion over here? How is that possible? And it's not, and everybody, that's pretty simple math to kind of figure out, something's wrong.
When I saw the headline, that it's funny, and I'm not going to try to get into it now, but there was actually a podcast interview with Sam where he detailed the risks of them taking on the margin trading they take on because they don't have the crypto to back it up, and then talked about that. And then it turns out the headline that really caught my attention yesterday was when their reserves got to the negatives for Bitcoin because of people withdrawing, right?
Yeah.
So look, this leverage shit is going to bite you. And it's biting all of us. Sean, I saw that Kobe posted the balance sheet, but it was actually a partial part of the sheet. And then he said he can't stand by the sheet. So I decided not to bring it up today. But yeah, Kobe did post what he claims is a balance sheet, but it's like half the sheet. So I'm not going to even go to it today, but anyway, here's the headline with Tom Brady and Giselle putting $650 million fortune in and maximizing their stake in FTX.
See, look, I'm going to tell you, that is what you don't do. Okay.
Right.
Number one, remember my quarters rule, 25% slugs. You do not roll in and drop your whole nest egg into one thing. And I'm not even talking about the entry point. I'm talking about that is just not good. His financial advisors should be fired.
He probably doesn't have one.
Tom Brady, I'm sure he has financial. He has agents, so he's part of like one of those big agent groups, IMG or somebody, or one of those dudes, Jay-Z or somebody, and those guys are surrounded with bankers and stuff too that get him in all the sweet deals. This is kind of like, somebody should have been watching the concentration. But look, as to Lehman and stuff like that, I just don't know really how this is going to play out. I don't know how much was cross leveraged. I mean, this is a topic that's frequently mentioned in the derivative market too. How much, if you can spin up like 13 trillion in assets or in power, leverage power from a trillion. You can have a pretty big effect on things, but it's still only a trillion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually, if somebody, it's like musical chairs, there's more people than there are chairs. And,
Right.
somebody's going to get left out. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But
So,
that all the big financial houses are watching this.
oh, of course. So Niblet says, if this is crypto's Lehman, then where's the QE cavalry coming from? It's funny because I didn't see that there was more to Arthur's piece. He wrote, Bitcoin went down to almost 17,500 perpetual swaps on various other spot exchanges. Bitcoin experienced similar falls to levels close to 17,000. Get ready for lower for longer because it's coming. But the good thing about crypto is that no central bank will be riding the rescue with freshly printed fiat shitcoins to bolster the balance sheets of reckless companies. The crypto industry will be forced to devour its humble pie quickly, leading to a speedy recovery that leaves it stronger than ever. Could not agree more. This kind of shit cleans it out. And look, this is another example of centralized failure, right? That's all this is. If this was all on chain, we all would have known. We all would have seen, we would have all been able to see how leveraged they were and how fucked they were.
That's what the Ledger guy was saying on Bloomberg today. Gauthier, he was saying the exact same thing, that this is a problem of centralization.
And that's the framing we have to do. That's what I tweeted last night or this morning. I said, if you're a DeFi influencer providing press quotes on FTX, here's the message. This mess happened because centralized exchanges like in TradFi can hide risk. But in DeFi, everything is transparent. This proves that we need decentralization, not regulatory interference.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the case to be made. It's like, look, this is no different than all the other shit that happens in TradFi. It's the same thing. It's shit that's not transparent. We give you transparency with DeFi. I think it makes the argument for us. And this whole like, oh God, here comes the regulators, we're fucked, blah, blah, blah shit. It doesn't have to be that way if we frame it correctly. Sean said less to argue with in the divorce settlement. Eamon says we should mint 1 billion tokens, open a Uniswap LP pool with $10 USDC in one of our tokens, take all the float and borrow 50% against it.
Let's do it.
Call me.
Yeah, no, I mean, look.
Sean, wait. Sean says we could see on chain their leverage, by the way, shared it the last time I was on, but we couldn't see everything that was going on with them. But I agree with you. We could see some of it. We just didn't know the extent of everything.
It seems like most of the, when you watch like the crypto sort of reporters on the TradeFi finance channels, they're right on. We're not where we are as far as talking, but they're trying to get it, and their whole framework is like, oh my God, FTX goes down, it's like the darling of the crypto industry, and then the other guy, it was Gauthier from Ledger, he goes, not really. He's like, it was centralized, and he goes, and there's 3 other exchanges in the US, and he's like, Binance, Coinbase, and I think he said Kraken. And so it's not really like it's dead. It's just a player going down, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. So I completely agree with everything you're saying, but it seems to me like, there has to be a way to take truly decentralized stuff into a regulatory framework if you have to. There has to be a way to do that without going centralized. And I don't know the answer, but it seems to me if someone wants to lead that, if there's going to be crypto London, you would want to figure out an acceptable level of regulation on truly decentralized finance. What is it? I don't know, but it's not none, but it's not, full on probe kind of thing. It's got to be something in between. And that's what we have to figure out. Otherwise, we're going to have more of these messes, because I think you get to this inflection point where
I tell you the regulation we need. All financial institutions. Here's the regulation we need. All financial institutions must move on chain. All of their deposits, everything must be on chain. Any hiding of anything hidden off chain or hidden via encryption, you lose your license, period. That's it. That's the regulation.
You talking about crypto firms, or are you talking about like JP Morgan?
Everybody, stock market, everybody. Let's flip the narrative and say, no, we're calling for regulations of TradFi to force everyone on chain. full transparency. Let's flip the narrative. Let's lobby for that.
I mean, people don't really like to be forced to do stuff. And I'm thinking, I don't know how much the libertarians in the banking industry are going to really want to be told to do that. And I think it's a hard one. I think if we could just prove that DeFi works in ways that people can understand, and show that it's safe, we can lead the way by example.
Yeah, I don't actually believe that would succeed, Joe. It's
sorry,
more, I don't actually believe that would succeed. I don't actually believe that would ever pass.
Which one? Oh, the bank one. Got it.
To force everybody into blockchain. My point is it's the way to message it, right? This is what we miss in the crypto industry about political and regulatory, is our framing sucks. We spend all of our time talking about self-sovereign freedom when the rest of the planet doesn't give a shit, right? Until they understand it. So how do you help them understand the value? The way you help them understand the value is say, we can't trust centralized organizations with our money because they are not transparent about what's going on. We can trust DeFi with our money because we can see what's happening with it and we can build tools to analyze it.
Well, that's interesting because I think, when you look at someone, say in Africa or, let's say the developing world, for lack of a better term, they have a lot of bad experiences with centralized organizations.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Governments, on down. And, when we talk about centralized organizations in DeFi versus banking in the US, it's kind of an argument that doesn't really sink in hard because it's not a life or death argument like it is in state.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
So I think you're right. But I think we have to somehow, we don't get that problem as a culture, don't get the problem with centralization at the grassroots level.
Right.
I don't think.
No.
As much as those people do. So I think that has to be somehow in your messaging. I think that could fit into your framing part to like, what does it take to get a user or say, a Westerner to believe that DeFi is the better alternative than a regular bank?
Yeah.
Because we're just conditioned to like, oh, it's FDI insured. And, every time it says it's 100,000 limit, but, they pay everybody. If you have 50 million, they pay. So nobody loses on that, which makes us think centralization is good. But at the same time, we all know what happened in 08, 09.
Yeah. So, and if that hadn't been saved, then there would have been no FDIC left, right? I mean, if that hadn't been stopped, if there hadn't been the printing, it would have been a nightmare. Sean said, sounds good, but if you force people to show their hands, you get huge trader plays. It would be a clusterfuck of hunting. Well, and he says the game CZ just played. Well, yes and no. I mean, there are ways from a trading perspective to play this game without showing your hand and concentrating and everything in one wallet, right? I mean, there are ways to play this game, but when it comes to an institution that's custodying people's money or that is trading on their behalf, I'd rather it be on chain. So, and understanding the leverage that these organizations had. Mike Dudas, he's a big influencer in crypto. Maybe it's pronounced Dudas. I've never, anyway.
Dudas?
Very opinionated investor, 6-man ventures. He said, he tweeted last night or this morning. No, yesterday afternoon. My bad. He's a big believer in FTX. I mean, a big investor in FTX. My bad for once again believing that people I do business with were telling me and others the truth. Just so incredibly sad right now for the honest, hardworking developers and builders caught in the crossfire of billionaire money games and atrocious risk management. He's hurting because he's lost big time. Like a lot of people have lost big time that invested in FTX and trusted him. Anyway,
look, again, I don't look at it as, I think it's obviously it's emotional if you go lose $650 million, but you should be thinking all along the line that anything that sounds too good to be true never is. Don't we know that? Is it ever?
Exactly.
All these DeFi plays, we knew that everybody had to go to the next place to get yield in order to come back and service the model until all the transactions pick up enough to where you got the transaction fees churning and all of that. And it just didn't quite get to that level. And then you get these cascading things where, all these groups were, the peers chasing leverage at the end from the next big thing. Yep. And so, it always unwinds eventually. So people in FTX should have known that. And they should have invested an appropriate amount that they could lose. That's it. I mean, that's the game we play every day. They should be doing the same thing. So when these billionaires go in and lose 650 million, I don't give a shit. Flat out. Do not care.
When people were talking about CZ being the bad guy in this, I tweeted, I'm looking for a pic of CZ with a gun to Sam's head, telling him to leverage the hell out of his biz, risk customer funds, and cause a dump in the market. Betting FTX users that won't have to wait years for scraps from bankruptcy court are cool with this move. If it happens, obviously. So, so we've done politics, and then SBF, FTX, CZ. There's the headline. Safu Fund tops out at 1 billion. He lose it literally in 24 hours, dude.
Is he like really broke?
Yeah, dude. I think it was all probably denominated in the value of FTX and Alameda and coins.
Well, see, here's another thing.
We don't know if he's got
stack.
Stacks.
Yeah, he was getting paid. I'm sure he's paying himself.
Hopefully, he was fucking smart enough to do that. But
wouldn't he be paying himself? I'd be paying myself like 25 million a year.
I don't know.
So, I'm sure he was.
Well, and here's the other thing. There's going to be a lot of fucking charities and politicians pretty bummed at the moment because.
And what about the the arena downtown?
Yeah, well, I think that's already paid for, hopefully.
That was 500 million, right?
I think so. But he was giving away
I guess it's going to be the Binance arena soon.
I want to be there for the name change.
Exactly. Right.
He was giving away a shit ton of money, and he was donating a lot to a lot of politicians. Was one of the biggest contributors at the political level. So Sean said, you assume leverage. I bet there was none but collateral destruction by CZ. I'm not sure what he means.
I mean, that was the whole point of the. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it seems like he seems to feel that CZ, targeted the assets that Sam was using as collateral in the FTX model to take their value down.
Right.
And it was predatory. But, if it was weak, it was weak.
At the same time, when the balance sheet comes out, look, let's assume not predatory just for a second, right? Balance sheet comes out. You're holding $2.1 billion worth of a token. You got burned on Luna big time. Like your billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars in investment in Luna is now $3,000. As the CEO of the company, what do? You need to dump it, right? So you dump it OTC, you dump it wherever. Well, here's the problem. As soon as they moved out of that wallet onto exchange for a sale, everybody noticed. So that's when everybody started freaking out. That's when the balance sheet news broke. So predatory or not, the right thing to do as the CEO of the company is to get as much cash out of that fucking money as you can, because you put $500 million into that company that looks like it's about to go broke, right? So what do? And if you get the bonus of, killing the number 2 competitor to your business and then potentially owning all his customers, sounds like good business to me.
Well, it's the big leagues, that's for sure.
And here's the thing: we're in an industry where all fucking day long your customers are making bank off of somebody else fucking up. I mean, that's the entire idea of trading, right? You're taking money from somebody else.
It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
It's not a fucking fantasy. This is a cutthroat game. As much as we like to think, oh, look, my algorithms are working, I'm making all this money. Bullshit. Somebody else is losing every time I make money. And so this idea that people who run these kinds of exchanges, like Sam or CZ or anybody else, are going to be nice, you're in the wrong fucking business.
If you have a full-on, in the real decentralized play, or let's say an organic algorithmic organism type decentralization play, it's going to be trained, or it's going to eventually figure out, I'm kind of talking a little AI here at this point, apologies, that it's got to eat the weak to survive. And so this is exactly what happened here. If Sam was weak, which it sounds like, and I don't know if it's because people pulled out 500 million in Bitcoin, or I don't know what that was, but something happened where the dynamics changed. And this is the natural order of things. I mean, go watch the Nature Channel.
Yeah, this is business, people. It seems to me like everything we're learning, they were going to collapse anyway, right? This was going to happen. I'd rather it happen this way anyway.
Niblitz had a good question. Like what happened between yesterday's show and today, and is it all just FTX? And I think a lot hanging over is that BTC seizure, but I also think a lot of it is that, like we talked earlier, that people are now saying, "Oh shit, it's going down, and I'm going to sell now."
Right. People are freaked out that there's going to be mass contagion from this. It's going to cause the same shit that happened with 3AC, Luna, Terra, et cetera. And so they're freaking out and dumping everything,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. But we've also been predicting for months now, all the experts, that we're going to 13,000 anyway. So let's hurry up and get it the fuck over with.
Yeah. And get your limit orders in. I mean, what I was saying somewhere today or yesterday was, like, I think I said like 15, I don't know what I said, but I think I said something. I would say now like 15, 12, 5, and 10, load up there and be ready if you are going to sell. But, put those in first before you sell, kind of thing. But that's just if you think it. If you already lost, there's no point at this point.
Sean says, not defending Sam, but there was no leverage on the balance sheet. Loans against shitcoins, but that's most of the space. The reason that CZ would not go OTC was that kept the FTX balance sheet. I think what he's saying is that yes, CZ wanted to fuck him, and I agree, and I have no problem with that. But then Sean says, yes, it's biz, but the contagion will last for a long time and be very, very deep. Yes, that's possible, and yes, it will suck for a lot of people, but once again, it'll clean the shit out of this market. And it'll show the self-correcting nature of DeFi, and it is business. And at the end of the day, I don't know, man. It's just, this is how shit happens. It's markets. I mean, that's the entire point of what we're doing here, right? Is to let the markets work. But
I think also you've got to remember the original Bitcoin ethos was more philosophy than markets. So I think where the crypto community is having a hard time grappling with this is that we all wish for the best, and we all want everybody to play nice. But when it comes down to money, people don't.
Exactly.
Flat out, do not.
Exactly.
And so I think that, what will we call that? That curtain has to be pulled from everybody's vision that this is the way it is going to happen. And I think if we can figure out, maybe there's models in decentralization where this doesn't happen. But I think in the end, the strong always eat the weak, and the play is to make the weak stronger.
Yeah.
And just, from a philosophy standpoint, it's always ugly. Nobody really wants it because there is human misery attached to it. But it just makes you have to be smart where you put money and not concentrate. So it happens all the time. It happens in every aspect of life and society.
Yeah.
So you have to have plan B.
Well, I can't find what I did with the Mike Dudas tweet again, but just look at that, right? Here's a guy who invests millions and millions of dollars in startups in crypto. And he's saying to himself, once again, he has to learn the lesson that he can't trust people. And that's the entire function of this system. So Sean says, dude, it's the same model as using staked ETH as collateral. Well, if in your head, it's the same model because you think ETH is just as worthless as FTT, but some of us actually think there's more value there than FTT. But yeah, I understand.
What I like about Sean, his arguments are always right, but it's, at an absolute level, okay. But it's
just not fair to be having this discussion with him having to type in his fucking answers.
Oh yeah, exactly. No, right. Yeah. But the point is that
because he's smarter than me and he needs to be here being smarter than me, not fucking, me representing his comments.
yeah, it doesn't matter if you're like 4 Guinness deep either. So
exactly. It does not fucking matter. And I don't even drink anymore. Although if Sean came into town, I would definitely have a beer.
Hell yeah. No, we're all going to have a Guinness at McDade's.
I don't know if I can do the Guinness, but I'll do some beer that he can make fun
Well, they
of.
have like a lady size.
And it'll be cold.
They have a little short one for you.
It'll be a cold beer, Blue Moon, really, with an orange on it, so he can really make fun.
No, what you need is one of those Mexican beers with a lime in it, like some Corona.
I love some Corona.
What's the best beer to drink when you're drinking all day, man?
I love it. That was my thing. Well, I was a Budweiser drinker, so
you can't drink Guinness all day.
We got.
I'm not allowed.
Andre, look, you got you. So I got excited. Back? This is Andre Cronje. He's back full on with a blog post talking about learning from his mistakes, and I got excited. I thought, here he goes. He's going to say that he was wrong and how he exited, and he never should have done that way, and he never should have done it. You know what this fucking is? this
Please summarize for us.
Fucking blaming everybody else. I've learned I can't try to, you don't want to be famous because people will just attack you. You don't want to do this because you'll just get blamed. Blah, blah, blah. Him fucking whining. Just fucking not a speck of actual apology, not a speck of, wow, I really fucked over my whole fucking chain and the infrastructure and the people involved. Not a thing, not a word.
Can I say something real quick on that? Just that theme is that you don't have to say, I mean, these guys, you don't have to go in and say, oh, I'm also sorry for fucking up. You come in, I'm not saying I'm not going against you, Brad. I'm just adding a dimension to this. You come in and say, look, I learned a lot of lessons from the first couple of go-arounds, and this is where I think we got to do next.
Yeah, well, he actually does talk about that. In fairness,
good. Okay.
He does talk about kind of how he wants to move forward with Phantom and what can happen for Phantom. And I read this just before we came on, so if I'm not being completely fair with it, I will address it tomorrow. But what I could read, and I went in looking for the wow, I wish I hadn't done shit like that to fuck everybody over in the Phantom ecosystem. It's not there. I can't find it. He does talk about how he's going to apply the lessons learned about the stupid shit he did to moving forward, like not being so prominent, not being so, but it's just a capability of people to say, here's where I fucked up. Like, there are some people in the space that can do that. Other people's that can't so much. And Zhu came back and gave a long thread. Remember we saw him say good morning yesterday? And again.
No mea culpa.
I mean, he slides it in a little bit, but it's the sorry, not sorry thing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, all the people that have attacked me, fuck you. No, but he doesn't say fuck you. He says, may peace be with you. I've learned from meditation, blah, blah, blah. You guys are upset because you lost money. I get it, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks about the fact that, and for all the press and all the people who didn't believe the lies and that we weren't doing things shady, then thank you so much for being in my life, blah, 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 blah. But again, it's like you come back after months and the destruction and devastation that you wreaked upon the ecosystem was stupid. And you don't say, guys, I fucked up. Just say that. Just say, I fucked up. And here's the lessons I learned about myself and how I can do better. And thank you to the people that have shown love and support to me. That's all you got to do, dude. It's like the human ego is so strong. And then when you're famous and you've been seen as a leader and everybody worships you, it's really hard to kind of let go of that. Right?
Yeah. What he might want to do is communicate his future prison commissary account number to everybody so they can donate to him.
Oh, the clip I meant to download. I forgot to. I don't know what the fuck was up with Kobe on his show. What's his name? Shkreli, the fucking.
Oh, about the pharma bro.
He had him on his show yesterday with Do Kwon. It's
like a rogues gallery, man.
Shkreli, this was the only good part about it. But it was happening in the heat, just like us yesterday, of everything that was going on with SBF. But in the heat of the moment, Skrelly says to Doe when Doe comes on, "Hey Doe, I just want to let you know, prison, it's really not that bad, dude. Don't sweat it."
Pick up a master's degree, work on your golf game, work on your backhand slice a little.
And then
diet.
somebody else in the group, there was like 6 to 8 people on this show. Somebody else in the group said, "Yeah, but you weren't in South Korea."
Yeah. I'll tell you, South Korea prison, it ain't club fed.
Sean said, "Oh shit, Sean, I don't think I want to publicly disclose that, dude. I think we'll leave that out."
Yeah.
Yeah. Niblets says the Canto news promised yesterday still brewing, dude. Still brewing, waiting for the devs to get their shit together. But hopefully. Oh, new blockchain. Didn't have a chance to really look at it. 10,000 transactions per second. Very developer oriented, called Monad. Kobe and a bunch of other big names in the space are investors in this L1. So another one for us to look at and start taking a look at, Joe. But
Monad.
We talk about getting into the early staking, getting in for the airdrops, getting in the test net. This is one I want to look at because the names behind it are pretty big, and it looks like it was all angel investors, not institutional, but I need to check that some more. And this one came from the my job search tip thing.
Nice. Good pull.
It's a good one. Let's see if I got anything else worth talking about.
Well, just real quick, I can toss on some CPI stuff real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
The expectation is a slight decrease in CPI. So obviously all the action is how far down, or is it go up, But I also heard that the stuff to look at is the services pricing, that goods and things like that have been going down already. Healthcare costs look like they're getting ready to start tipping over and going down. Real estate's obviously already going down. Jobs, we saw Facebook, I think, cut 11,000 people today. There's been a lot of cuts at big tech and things like that. So things are definitely slowing. And, but that feeds into the very encouraging news of, at least a U.S. soft landing. So, with the pen. Now, of course, if the print goes higher, then I think it's at 8.2 was the last one. It was 8.3 the one before that, and down like a tenth, 8.2, I believe. So, 8.1, I think, is the expectation. Lower, I don't know what that means. Higher, I know what that means. That means, maybe the next hike is for sure locking in at 75 versus maybe 50 or a pause. So we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow.
Sean says, no probs, man. When we were talking about not sharing that information he shared, he said, no probs, man. Just part of the game. I had the funds hedged to zero and wanted to get that Mount Gox feeling. Oh, I love this guy, dude. I gotta move. I want to move to the UK. Not just for you, Sean, but.
Well, wait, isn't he in? He's in Ireland, right?
But he told us he was going to move to London. I don't know.
Oh, okay, got it.
But I don't know I don't know if he has or not. Maybe he changed his mind. I don't know.
But Dublin's an awesome city.
Ireland's on my list because I've never been there. So that's
definitely little kiss the Blarney Stone.
There you go. MetaMask has integrated bridging protocols into their DApp portfolio DApp, not into the wallet. So that little kind of lame portfolio DApp thing they launched, wasn't quite ready for prime time because it doesn't have anything more than Etherscan, just a prettier Etherscan.
Yeah, I took a look at that, and I remember I only looked at it for like a couple seconds, and I was like, whatever.
It's just not there yet. Not there yet. They should have waited to talk about it. But anyway, bridging is going to become part of the portfolio DApp. I'm just a little surprised that they didn't make this part of the wallet. Maybe the problem's too difficult right now. But I expect eventually that the DApp and the wallet become one, just like Zerion's doing, like DeBank and Rabby are doing. I assume that's where MetaMask is going as well. And look, MetaMask is printing fucking money with swaps. So I expect them to keep trying to make it even more so a part of what they're doing. So,
hey, have you looked at, for our South Florida users, we got that storm out there that's coming across the Bahamas as a hurricane, and then I think comes ashore as a trop storm, like around Palm Beach area, between Palm Beach and Lauderdale. So I don't think we're going to get the brunt of it, but everybody needs to be aware of this, that even though it says it goes down to a tropical storm, that's probably in like I think hurricane's at 75 plus knots. It's probably still in the 70s,
Yeah, we're going to get tropical storm. Hurricane is going to be from like Broward County up to Jacksonville area.
Cool.
And then it'll be a tropical storm all the way across Florida out to, the Tampa area, et cetera, and then back up through Georgia as a tropical depression.
So wherever it comes ashore, just north of that is going to get pounded because you have the storm spinning counterclockwise, and when the speed of the storm too, on top of that, it's like an accelerator. So storm surge just comes pouring in over that like kind of top quadrant, sort of a clock, like between 9 and 12. So we're lucky. But still, when I was over on the bay, like when Charlie came ashore, like maybe I think it was 05-ish, I was looking down at the seawall. I was on the 22nd floor, luckily. And there was like 15-foot breakers coming over the wall on Miami side of the bay because it's so shallow. And, the beach is still out there blocking the big waves. So, it gets dicey. So don't like blow this off because it's a tropical storm, I guess is my point.
A quick tip for anybody that's ever anywhere I think it's US only he does. So again, US centric information. But if you're ever kind of in the eye of storm heading your way, this guy, Mike's weather page, it's spaghettimodels.com, is the absolute best place to get your information about what's going on, because everything's in one place together. The spaghetti models. This is for those that don't experience hurricanes. This is spaghetti models. A spaghetti model just means all the computer models saying where the storm's going, and this is not.
And that's what the cone. That's the cone too. Yeah, because it's what gets how tight the cone looks.
Yep, exactly. Here's the wind speeds we should expect, Joe. We're looking at 30 to 50 miles per hour. Not much of anything for us.
Yeah,
kids are out of school today.
Yeah, this is the price of living here. But the good part is it's the eye for us. It's where the eye comes. It scrubs all the vegetation off. So this just does a nice little cleansing. So where the eye comes is like the bedlam in the crypto industry over the last day or so.
Yeah,
and then everywhere else is more like kind of not necessarily crabbing, but you don't feel like it's going to be a free fall down.
Yeah, exactly.
So be safe, everyone in this area.
All right, we're hanging around 17,000 for Bitcoin, 1,178 for Ethereum. BNB dropped down to 289, 290. Wow. So everybody, stay safe out there. Try not to do anything stupid in the next few days. But God knows what's going to happen from here. We'll just have to wait and see. But
and if you are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you are making moves, be cautious. If you say all of a sudden, okay, look, I'm not in BTC yet. I want to get in BTC. I got 10 grand. Start looking, if you can, have limit orders and shit like that. This is not financial advice, but remember, 25% of that first, wherever you make your decision entry point, 2,500 of that 10,000. Save the other 7,500 in reserve, and then make sure you got some stuff to DCA if it goes further, because that's going to really juice your ROIs, your return on investment. Likewise, on the way out of anything, trimming, slightly, but just be smart risk wise. Don't go like, oh, I got 10 grand and put it all in now. Because you're going to be pissed probably somewhere.
Euphoric says, I always look forward to hearing you guys' opinions when big events like this occur. Thanks. Thank you, man. We really appreciate you. Buddy. And if you appreciate what we do here, like Euphoric does, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please subscribe on YouTube. Click the little bell so you get notifications. And please give us a thumbs up on this show so we boost in the algorithms. Anything you do can help would be great. We love and appreciate all of you that listen and watch, and the participants, Euphoric, Sean, Niblitz, Eamon. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for adding to the conversation, correcting us, helping us learn. Just because we have opinions doesn't mean they're right. So the folks like you that are here to give us your thoughts really makes a huge difference. I encourage any of you that are listening on the podcast or after the fact on YouTube, if you ever get a chance to join us at noon Eastern, please come in, Don't be shy. Come in and join the conversation. We love to have people's thoughts, ideas, comments, and feedback. This is a community. This is not just Brad and Joe. So appreciate that. Check us out on Reddit, r/Mission DeFi. It's where we're trying to get the discussions going further with all of the topics that matter in DeFi, not just the things we talk about on the show. Joe, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Two things. Why don't, if you guys have time, go. What was that company called? Monad, Brad?
Monad. It's the new chain is called Monad. MONAD.
Go check that out today, so we can do some on-air research tomorrow on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Put it in the Reddit.
Yeah, we'll crowdsource it, and let's just see what everybody thinks.
Monad.xyz. MONAD.xyz. Would love to have everybody's thoughts on this. Sean, I know yours already, but would love to have your thoughts anyway.
Absolutely. But other than that, thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. And thanks, everyone. Always a pleasure helping. And Euphoric, really appreciate that comment.
Oh, real quick note on Canto. Masari put out a really great report on Canto. I don't subscribe to Masari, but if you do, go check it out. I got a copy of it because I helped add to some of the narrative with the researcher Chase, who listens to the show occasionally, and he's just a great guy, did a great analysis. But I'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can go see his Twitter thread about it. But I agreed with just about everything there. And I learned some more stuff about the dynamics of it. So
cool.
Take a look at that. Joe, thanks so much.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. Talk to you later on. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.